What's going on, everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most interesting phones to be released in a very long time. What I've got here is the CMF Phone1, and this is actually not my first time dealing with CMF products. Recently, me and my wife took a trip to China and I needed some earbuds, so I actually picked up 2 pairs of the CMF buds on Amazon, really not knowing much about the company. These were 40 bucks, some of the best headphones that I have right now, and I'm not big on headphones or earbuds, but for the price with noise canceling, nice little case here, build quality is really great. So I did a little bit of research, and it wasn't hard to find out that CMF is actually a sub-brand of the Nothing company, and they make the Nothing phone. So as soon as I heard that CMF was releasing the Phone1, I knew I had to get my hands on it. And there's 2 main things, in my opinion, that make this phone really special. First being the price. This is actually coming in at $199, and for the specs, build quality, and overall what we're getting here, it's definitely well worth it when you're talking about $800 to $1,400 phones on the market. But the second big thing here is there is some modularity to this. They actually have some accessories for the rear of this unit that we can actually attach, like the stand, lanyard, and card case. But I can tell you that people who do a lot of 3D printing are going to make some really awesome accessories for this. And of course, there may be some third-party companies to come out with something for this unit also. So far, performance has been great with this device. And by the way, this screen here is absolutely beautiful. It's an AMOLED coming in at 6.67 inches, up to 120 Hz, with up to 2000 nits of brightness. I mean, for a $200 device, that's pretty much unheard of. I love the look and feel of the interface. It's actually running Android 14 and it's using the Nothing icon set. But it does kind of break character once you start installing more apps from Google Play, because not all of the icons are going to be compatible, so you'll get those stock icons. Really wish there was a way to automatically convert all of these. I really wouldn't mind running this all throughout with that Nothing icon set on it. Now, personally, I love the fact that we do have a little bit of modularity to this device. So basically around back here, we can actually remove the rear shell. So they do sell extra cases. I've got one that I'm going to be installing. And I just removed what they call the accessory point, but I did want to give you a closer look at this device. Overall, I think it's really sleek. Definitely kind of reminds me of, teenage engineer designing going on here. I think it looks good like it is, and the only color that I could actually get from the factory was black right now. But I was able to scoop up one of their cases, the light green version, and they call it a case, but basically it's the rear shell, so you will need to remove the other shell to install this one. Super simple to do. You can kind of mix and match the little pieces. It does come with a SIM card slot that's going to be the same color as the rear shell you opted to buy. And right now I think they're offering orange, black, and light green. It comes with the tool to remove the rear shell. Also comes with the SIM card slot to match the color of the shell that you chose to use. And personally, I think this is a really neat idea. I'd love to see more accessories available for this unit. We've got that SIM card slot we need to remove. I've also taken off that accessory point. 4 screws in the rear, comes with the tool to do it. We'll just go ahead and get these out. And while taking this apart, since I've got the black version, it does come with the black screws, but that light green case came with silver screws, so I think I'm actually going to use the ones that I took out of it, just to give it a little contrast there. And basically, we'll just go ahead and snap the rear shell back on, put those 4 screws in, and we're good to go. It doesn't take much to swap this shell out. It's super easy to do, but it's actually a really fun process to do so. And one of the main reasons I wanted to get my hands on the CMF phone was to see if it would be a viable option for people to pick up who also game on their device. So I'm going to be testing out some gaming emulation. We're also going to be running some benchmarks. And I'll tell you, for a new $200 device, this is actually packing some pretty decent specs. It's definitely not S24 Ultra territory, but this will get you by. They opted to use the MediaTek Dimensity 7300, so we've got an 8-core ARM SoC, 4 A78 cores at 2.5 GHz, and 4 A55 cores at 2 GHz, a Mali G615 MC2 GPU, 8 GB of RAM, plus we've got a RAM boost feature like a lot of the newer devices, so basically it's going to be adding swap up to 8 gigs, so we can get a total of 16 across the board, 128 GB of internal storage, plus a micro SD card slot. It's got a 120 Hz, 6.67 inch AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080 by 2400, up to 2000 nits of brightness, 50 megapixel rear camera, and this will do up to 4K 30, 16 megapixel front, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.3, 5000 milliamp hour battery with 33 watt fast charging capabilities, and this is running Android 14. In terms of performance, just everyday use on this device, I haven't noticed any kind of slowdown or anything like that. But, is it going to keep up with the performance of a $1,400 Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra? Of course it's not going to, but we're not working with a $1,400 phone. We've got a $199 device, and I think for what we have, it's doing pretty good. First thing I wanted to take a look at were some benchmarks on this thing. Geekbench 6, single core 1025, multi 2912. I also ran 3D Mark Wildlife. We got a 3135, so this is a GPU benchmark. And the final one we have here is Antutu, and I just kind of wanted to give you an idea. $200 phone coming in with a 670,000. The Galaxy S24 Ultra is over 2 million, so there's a giant performance gap here, but there's also a giant price gap. Now I want to move over to some gaming, and I gotta say this screen does look really good, but I'm a huge fan of these oversaturated AMOLEDs. There's a game mode built in. I've got that enabled for everything we're going to be taking a look at in this video. Plus we've got Google Games, and we can get that on-screen FPS counter. Of course, playing games on a phone, a lot of people are just going to use, the touch screen, and we will do that with at least one of these games. But I've got the brand new Asus ROG Tessen USB Type-C foldable controller here. And the CMF Phone1 fits right in here, no problem at all. So USB Type-C, we don't have to worry about latency. It's not connecting over Bluetooth. We just kind of slide it right in. And now we've got a really nice controller for this device, and we can start playing our games. Obviously, with Minecraft, we can basically play this on anything, but I did want to give you a look at that FPS. And while at the stock settings, I think we're at about 14 chunks, we can't run this at a constant 120. I think dropping it down to about 8 chunks you definitely could, but on a mobile device, going to 120 is a bit overkill for this game anyway. I was taking a look through Google Play to find a few games here and there, and I downloaded this. I thought it was a brand new game, but it's just Asphalt Legends with Unite on the end of it. I guess they added some new content. I've got it set to 60 FPS, and while we can't reach it, still feels really smooth. And this is one of those games that natively supports controllers on Android, so you can basically use anything you want. Here's Call of Duty Mobile, high settings, 60 FPS, and I did try the extreme FPS setting in the game. It still was only stuck at 60, so I guess it's not whitelisted yet. But, with this chipset and how well this game is optimized already, I'm pretty sure we'd be able to run this at medium, 90 FPS on this phone. So far, all of the Android games that I've been testing have been working really well, but of course there are a few that are definitely harder to run, like Genshin Impact. Now this is one that we're not going to be able to go up to ultra settings on this device. We will have to drop it down to low if you want to do 60 FPS. But I also tested this at high, 45 FPS, because we've got that setting in the game right now. We can do that, and it actually works out pretty well. If you take a look at that on-screen FPS counter, low, 60 FPS, not a problem to run this game. But I know there's people out there that might want better visual fidelity, so just keep in mind, 30 FPS maxed out on this device does work, or high 45 FPS. Now it's time to move over to some emulation, and this little device is pretty impressive. Now when it comes to the easier to run stuff, you go for some NES, some PC Engine, Dreamcast, N64. This chipset will handle it, so we're testing out some higher end stuff. Here's PSP using the PPSSPP emulator, 2x resolution, Vulkan back in, and I think with this game we could go higher. I also tested out Chains of Olympus at 2x. So yeah, for the easier to run PSP games, you could probably go up to 4x with this, but 2 still looks really great on this AMOLED display. And as you can see, it does run those harder to emulate games pretty well. Now we're going to take it up a notch to Gamecube and Wii emulation. So there are some games that are going to be hard pressed to run on this even at 1x with the stock Dolphin emulator. A modified version of this where we could lower the resolution might work with games like F-Zero GX on those harder to run tracks. But even Automodalista here did perform much better than I thought it would. We're running at 60 FPS, 1x resolution, so native resolution, Vulkan back in. And the same goes for a lot of the Wii games that I tested here. Sonic Colors, this is one that actually ran at 30 on native hardware, so we're at 30 FPS, still at 1x using Vulkan. With this Dimensity chipset, Vulkan for most of the emulators is definitely the way to go. Few of them may benefit from OpenGL, but it's going to be far and few in between. And the final thing I wanted to test here was some PS2 emulation using Nether SX2. So this is one that actually gave me some issues with a few different games, and it's kind of a known problem with these Dimensity chips and this emulator. We just don't have the power to push higher resolutions with this emulator here, but at those lower 1 and 1.5x resolutions, we can run a lot of these PS2 games pretty decently. Even something like Gran Turismo 4 at 1.5x resolution, Vulcan back in, is hanging in there really well. I would probably take this down to 1x because we did have a few dips here and there, but overall, not too bad. So far, pretty impressed with the CMF Phone 1. This is actually a really great device coming in at $199. Performance isn't going to be top notch like those higher end, more expensive phones, but as you saw, you're definitely going to be able to play your favorite Android games, and you can get into a lot of emulation with this thing also. Personally, I'd love to see some more add-on modules for the back of this from the community. So, if you do run into any projects, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to print something up, slap it on the back of this thing. Something like a slide-out keyboard or a slide-out controller would be really awesome for this device. So yeah, if you run across anything, let me know down below. But that's going to wrap it up for this first look video. If you're interested in learning a little more, I will leave some links in the description. If there's anything else you want to see running on this device, let me know in the comments below. But that's it for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.